Let's turn back the clocks. 2006. The Xbox 360 been out for a year and people were loving it. The Elder Scrolls 4, Saints Row, Gears of War, Call of Duty 2. The console was even said to be the 6th greatest of all time by IGN, even despite this little bugger who bricked many an Xbox, mine included. The Xbox 360 even to this day is still one of my favourite consoles. Some of the best memories are on this thing, playing Xbox Live with friends, playing through Halo 3, my first proper Grand Theft Auto experience in GTA 4, and plenty of others. This console really paved the way for console gaming in the modern age. Okay, pause. What on earth does this have to do with Sony's success with the PlayStation 4? Well, you have to set it up. Right, but this has literally nothing to do with the PS4. Well, not directly it doesn't, but so are we actually going to get to it? If you'd let me fucking speak! This setup will ease us into it and give us context for the discussion about the PlayStation 4. I'm nearly there, so please, just let me continue, and I promise, the sooner we get there, the sooner we can all leave and play The Crew or something. Okay, thank you. Where were we? Then the PS3 decided to come out. The release of the PlayStation 3 came out a whole year after the Xbox 360 and tried to compete with the games, the hardware, and the online services. And did it? Nah, not really. It was a total fucking shambles. I mean, who on earth is paying $500 for that? Jesus Christ, you can buy a PS4 in 2018 for less money than that was. It was a mess of an announcement. The Xbox 360 was just $300 to $400 depending on the version you got, and so for years the Xbox 360 dominated the console market. But slowly and surely, PlayStation began to learn. They looked at what they'd done well with their previous consoles, the PlayStation 1, the PlayStation 2, and applied that to the PlayStation 3. They took Xbox's online model and one-upped that. You didn't have to pay for PSN back in the day. It was totally free to play online with your friends, almost as if it shouldn't cost money at all to do that. But above all else, the thing that Sony can do better than anyone else is make memorable games. See, I told you this was leading somewhere. Think of some of the greatest games from your childhood. SSX, Final Fantasy, Gran Turismo, Spyro, Jak and Daxter, Kingdom Hearts, Crash Bandicoot, Devil May Cry, Guitar Hero, Dog's Life. What? That game was the shit. I mean, who doesn't want to be a dog and do dog things? Dig up a bone? Sony's got your back. Play fetch? Sony's got your back. Maul enemies with your teeth? Okay, but you could do that in COD Ghosts. This didn't have a point to it. PlayStation had and still has one of the greatest catalogs of exclusive games. Xbox came closest to rivaling it with the Xbox 360, but after Sony realized where they could take their games with the PlayStation 4, they haven't looked back, and that's why the PS4 is the fastest selling console of the current generation. Now, you're probably sitting there thinking, so is that it? Their secret is making good games? Well, that's fucking obvious. No, wait. That's not the secret I was going to talk about. The secret to their success comes from the way they market their exclusive games. It's something I've picked up on, and I think based on this we can actually determine the direction of games they currently have announced. So for this next section of the video, I want everyone to get out their tinfoil hats. Even though this theory makes sense, it's also kind of based on nothing but my own speculation. Trust me when I say it does make sense. You will leave this video feeling like I taught you something, but bear in mind it means nothing and is also based on absolutely nothing but their track record. Anyways, let's begin. So to me, this is a bit of a recent thing that Sony's been doing, especially with their open world titles. So let's take a look at Horizon Zero Dawn. When you think of Horizon's marketing, tell me what you can remember, because for me, and I'd say for the average person who follows video games, you'd remember forests, mountains, and overgrown cities. Those were the main areas they chose to market Horizon Zero Dawn. The main enemy types were Watchers, Scrappers, and Sawtooths. They showed plenty of shots of Aloy with her tribe, and the area around Mother's Cradle. Now granted, there were some shots of Meridian for fractions of a second, and sometimes there were bigger enemies like the Thunderjaw, but overall, for the most part, 90% of the footage they showed us was from the first hour or two of the game. Now, this might seem like nothing, but I remember playing Horizon Zero Dawn for the first time, and once I got out into the open world, I thought, yeah, this is really cool. There's a city that's destroyed, there's mountaintops. I've seen this in trailers, but it looks way cooler when I actually experience it for myself. However, what I didn't expect was progressing further to find an expansive desert, a city built into the mountains with elevators I could interact with seamlessly, a village below which led into a jungle and further into a swamp, castles to the west which acted somewhat like a medieval town with their own court and fight arena as if it were ancient Rome, and beneath all of this there were ancient structures and hidden vaults from the people who lived here before us, always giving new information, always providing insight into the world before the player was in it. There were many more things in Horizon Zero Dawn that came as a surprise than things I already knew. I realized halfway through the game, all these fucking trailers were isolated to this part of the map. And even though there was definitely some footage here and there showing these other areas, a huge majority of the footage was shown from the first hour. Now this leads us on to my next example. God of War. God of War was also very sneaky, perhaps even more so because it didn't just try to hide areas of the world, but it also hid how the world worked and even how the gameplay worked, and not to mention the story. Going into God of War, we didn't have much knowledge of anything, to be honest, but let's start the same way we did with Horizon. What we saw from the world of God of War was mostly snowy mountains, forests, rivers, and things along those lines. Now, where do we get all of those things the most heavily in the full release of God of War? At the beginning of the game. Do you see it yet? Do you see what they're doing to us? Like with Horizon, sure, there are definitely some shots of late game areas, different realms and what have you, but 90%, if not more, of the footage shown for God of War was all from the first few hours of the game. But with God of War, it goes further than just the parts of the world they hid from us. It goes into gameplay. God of War was painted to be some kind of Uncharted, The Last of Us type game, a linear game with a focused story that took us from beginning to end with some nice set pieces telling a very personal, well-crafted and polished story. Nowhere in the marketing did they say that this game would be semi-open world. Nowhere did they say we'd be able to freely travel between the realms at will. Nowhere did it tell us about the different gameplay elements that will be introduced at the mid to late game stages. God of War, more than any Sony exclusive, did all of their marketing as if the first 3 hours of the game was all the game had to offer, and that seemed like a bloody good experience. In reality, under the surface, the game was so much more than what was marketed. There was plenty more content than they led us to believe, and this is one of the things that contributed to its extreme success. They didn't tell us everything because they let the game do that for them. Now I want to try and apply this knowledge or this theory to a future title being released by Sony. Let's take a look at something like Spider-Man PS4 for example. Given what they did for God of War and Horizon, let's assume all the footage we've gotten so far from Spider-Man PS4 has been the first few hours of the game. How can we prove this? Well, let's look into the main villain of Spider-Man PS4. It appears to be Mr. Negative, but I'd wager that's not at all the case, and actually they're waiting for the full release for us to find out he's merely the first major villain in a story that'll span many different Spider-Man villains. But they want to act as if what we're seeing is parts of the game from different points. I feel that there will be more depth than we think to all of the systems in the game. There may be more to find out, more to do, more skills to acquire, and far more to achieve than what we've seen so far from the game's marketing. Well, things got a little bit serious there for a while, but I had to say a lot, so I guess the jokes just got away from me. But I think my point still stands. Sony makes great games, and of course that contributes to their success, but so does their incredible marketing. Sony makes such good games that they can pass off the first few hours as the whole experience, so that when people play it for themselves, they realize there is so much more than they first thought. This allows us to go in with high hopes, and come out the other end satisfied and surprised because the game ended up being more than we could have expected going in. And that's down to Sony's marketing for these games. There's always more than meets the iceberg. Oh, wait, shit, I fucked up that final line. Can we retake? I was gonna improv the final line because I thought it'd be a fun way to go out. That's why you stick to the script, dumbass. Oh god, did I fucking... Oh no! Now they're gonna be able to read my mind because it's fucking broken. Oh, fuck's sake. You're useless. Thanks so much for watching. Like I said, I ended up having so much to say in this video that the jokes kinda got away from me, but I hope you enjoyed nonetheless. Let me know the topics you'd like in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and like and all that business, and maybe consider supporting me on Patreon if you like this content. Anyways, thanks so much to all of you for your support, and I'll see you all next time.